Nous allons reprendre les travaux sur l'item 3 consacré à la situation des droits de l'homme sur le continent, en commençant par Pastoralists, Indigenous, Non-Governmental Organization Forum, Pengos Forum.
Thank you. Your Excellency, Madam Chairperson,
5 minutes.
Honorable Commissioners, Your Excellencies, Representative of States, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to present a statement from Pengos Forum, which is an umbrella organization for indigenous peoples, that is pastoralists and hunter-gatherers in Tanzania. Madam Chairperson, I want to highlight on issues that have been mostly exhausted in local legal remedies in Tanzania, but that the state is violating. One of these is a village called Mabwegere, that is along the coast of Tanzania, in which Maasai pastoralists are badly outnumbered by non-indigenous villages. This conflict has been raging on for years, for decades actually, and it ended up in court. What is important to say is that in 2010, in appeal number 53, the court judged in favor of the pastoralists, that is the Maasai. But consistently, the Tanzanian state is violating the court judgment. Very recently, the minister responsible for land affairs said in public that the government is going to resurvey the village boundary of Mabwegere. And should be remembered that the court which gave the judgment in favor of the pastoralists is the highest court in Tanzania. The second issue is about another village inhabited by another group of pastoralists called the Barbaik. The village is called the Vilimavitatu village. Now on September 13 this year, the armed forces, that is the police specifically, enter into that village and raised down using fire 18 bombers, that is homestead, rendering more than 300 people, mostly women and children, homeless. And again, in case number 77 of 2012, the Court of Appeal of Tanzania has ruled in favor of those pastoralists, but the state, working together with a company from France called the UN Lodge en Afrique, wanted to evict the pastoralists so that the company have their land for conservation and tourist activities. Madam Chairperson, the third issue is about a famous conflict which again has been raging on for decades in a village called, a district called Ngorongoro. The case itself is about a division called Loliondo. This is pitting the Maasai pastoralist against a company from the United Arab Emirates, specifically Dubai. The company is called the Otello Business Corporation. In 2017, the police, together with the company, moved in and raised down several villages, specifically about 7 villages. And the Maasai had no option but to go to the court. This time, the East African Court of Justice because they have already exhausted local legal remedies in Tanzania. As soon as they filed a court case, the Tanzanian state started to intimidate the village leaders who have filed the case in court on behalf of the community. And another issue, the last one, is about yet another village called the Kambala. This one is in Morogoro village, district. It had a conflict with neighboring villages of mostly farmers for many years. And they had a court case which has been raging on for over 7 years. When the court ruled against the pastoralists, they appealed. But the Tanzanian state quickly went in and dug up a huge canal to chop the village land of pastoralists, while knowing surely that there is a court that the village of pastoralists have appealed. All these cases have been going on, and it seems like there is no option that is remaining for pastoralists, because the Tanzanian state doesn't want to respect.
Résumé, s'il vous plaît. Hein?
We have one request from the Commission. That is, we are asking you, we are praying actually, that you have a fact-finding mission in Tanzania, which will be collaborative and involving both us together with the victim community and the state. That's one request that we have. We are asking you, really. We know the challenges that the Commission face, but please come if possible. Thank you so much.
Center for Human Rights, Education, Advices and Assistance.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Commissioners, distinguished states, delegates, and representatives from civil society. The Center for Human Rights, Education, Advice and Assistance is a human rights organization in Malawi championing the campaign for decriminalization of petty offenses. Under this campaign, the offense of rogue and vagabond under Section 184(1)(c) in Malawi was declared unconstitutional. Honorable Chairperson, I'm pleased to inform you that in our midst we have the man who changed the law in Malawi, Myles Ogwanda, a young, hardworking man who sells plastic bags in the city of Blantyre, and he walks 15 kilometers from his home to sell plastic bags, and was arrested by the police for the offense of rogue and vagabond. And he is the man who challenged the offense of rogue and vagabond under Section 184(c). Please allow me to introduce to you Myles Ogwanda. The Center for Human Rights, Education, Advice and Assistance, CREA, would like to bring the issue of children imprisonment to the attention of the Commission. In Malawi, there are over 400 children who are in conflict with the law and are in detention. Some of these children are held in prison, which is in conflict with the Child Care Protection and Justice Act. The only two institutions that have the legal capacity to detain children are Pemba, Chira, and reformatory centers. There are no any other centers in the northern and central part of the country. In fact, there's no single reformatory center or safety home for a girl child in the country. Section 157 of the Child Care Protection and Justice Act gives power to the Minister of Gender, Children, Disability and Social Welfare to establish places or institutions as public reformatory centers or public safety homes for minors. However, 8 years down the line since the Child Care Protection and Justice Act was enacted, the minister has not designated any place as a reformatory center or safety home. This has resulted in practice where children are detained in prison in conditions that are contrary to the best interests of the children, and is a clear violation of the Child Care Protection and Justice Act. The Inspectorate of Prisons in Malawi in 2016 reported that Kachere prison, where the children are held, is a health disaster in waiting. The report also noted several concerns, including severe shortage of food, risk of disease outbreak, the risk of structural collapse of the physical building, and a shortage of blankets. Regarding another prison, Vumbwe, where the children are also held, the inspectorate noted that the cells were poorly ventilated and toilets inside the cells were running without water. Considering the conditions under which the children are held in the prisons, CREA and its partners brought a case before the High Court. In the case, the High Court affirmed that it was illegal to detain or remand children in a prison or to imprison a child for any offense. The court ordered that all children detained in the two prisons pending trial should be transferred to safety homes within 30 days. However, despite the decision of the court, the children are still detained in the prisons because there are no designated child reformatory centers in the central and in the northern part of the country, and no single safety home in the country. Therefore, the current situation means that it's almost impossible to implement the court's decision. The conditions which the children are detained call for immediate action by the Minister of Gender, Children, Disability and Social Welfare to designate safety homes and reformatory centers. The government of Malawi has a duty under Article 18 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights to ensure protection of the rights of children as stipulated in international declarations, conventions, which include the promotion of the best interest of the child, detaining them in conditions that do not amount to cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment. CREA therefore calls on the Commission to remind state parties, and particularly
Conclude, please. Conclude.
the rights of children under the obligations to the Charter in respect to protection and promotion of rights. We further call upon the Minister of Gender to immediately designate safety homes for children in need of care and protection and reformatory centers for children in conflict with the law. I submit, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Merci.
Madam Chairperson, distinguished commissioners, representatives of member states, distinguished delegates representing the non-governmental organizations and CSOs, all protocol observed. On behalf of the Kenyan delegation, let me express appreciation to the government and the people of the Republic of the Gambia for the warm reception and hospitality extended to us since our arrival to this beautiful city. I also want to appreciate the Commission for the elaborate arrangements and facilities that have been put at our disposal for this meeting. Madam Chairperson, for full realization of human rights and fundamental freedoms is an ideal that all mankind aspires to achieve. The implementation of the human rights as contained in the African Charter on Human and People's Rights requires therefore the commitment and fulfillment of respectful obligations by the member states, the Commission and all other stakeholders in the field of human rights. In this regard, I wish to commend the Commission, through your leadership, Chairperson, and the distinguished commissioners for the tireless efforts towards the protection and promotion of human rights in Africa. On its part, the government of Kenya has relentlessly strived through the years to create peaceful and secure conditions for the enjoyment of human rights and basic freedoms in the country. The government has also continued to put in place the necessary legislative and administrative measures to ensure realization of its citizens of the rights guaranteed in the Constitution and other human rights instruments. Madam Chair, past continental experience has shown that human rights as well as socio-economic rights cannot flourish in an environment of destructive political competition. In spite of Kenya witnessing long and divisive electioneering campaigns, and 2 presidential elections in 2017, His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta and the main opposition leader, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, exchanged a historic, public and patriotic reconciliation, the handshake, for the sake of a peaceful and stable Kenya and the African continent. Today, the handshake has ushered a new dawn in the Kenyan's political dispensation and given the economy the much-needed impetus for growth. The government now works in harmony with serious focus on the implementation of the President's Big Four agenda to actualize rights to universal health care, housing, food security, and employment to youth. Kenya's political reconciliation presents the most viable way forward in avoiding plunging our continent in situations of human rights violations. Madam Chair, corruption has greatly undermined efforts to achieve human rights in our continent. In Kenya, the government has intensified the fight against corruption. The President is himself leading the war on corruption and has firmly stressed that no one, whether in public or private sector, is untouchable in the efforts to eliminate theft and wastage of public funds. Currently, 7 high-ranking public officers, including the country's sitting Deputy Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, former governors, cabinet secretaries, have been arraigned in court to answer to corruption charges. Madam Chair, with respect to the protection and promotion of the rights of persons with disability, the Cabinet in September 2018 approved the sector policy for learners and trainers with disabilities 2018 and the Person with Disability Bill 2018, which aims at repealing Disability Act 2003 to ensure conformity with the human rights principles contained in the Constitution, the African Charter, the African Protocol, and the UN Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disability. The policy recognizes the need for Kenya to move towards inclusive education by ensuring education needs of persons who have hearing, visual, and intellectual impairments are taken care of. Madam Chairperson, equality and freedom of discrimination are important national values and rights that underpin all public policies and legislation in Kenya. In that regard, the Kenya Constitution under the purview of vulnerable and marginalized groups provides several avenues for the protection of indigenous peoples' personal and collective rights. Regarding the judgment of the African Court on Human and People's Rights issued on 26 May 2017 against Kenya, as an initial step, an interministerial task force was created in November 2017 to, among other duties, recommend measures of implementing the court's judgment. The implementation of the judgment will require the formulation of laws and policy. The government is committed to exploring all avenues with a view to offering comprehensive and long-lasting solutions. Madam Chair, as the African Charter states, human beings are inviolable and no one is to be arbitrarily denied of the right to life. We are happy to report that a landmark ruling dated December 2017, where the Supreme Court of Kenya declared unconstitutional the mandatory nature of the death penalty as provided for under the Kenya Penal Code. A task force has drafted a policy and legal framework to enable the full and effective implementation of the judgment. The promotion of social economic rights, especially those targeting the elderly, the vulnerable persons and persons with disability in Kenya, have experienced significant growth in the past few years. The cash transfer program for the elderly that was rolled out in 2012 involving payment of Kenya shilling 2,000 monthly to those aged over 65 and living in extreme poverty was enhanced from May 2018 to include medical cover through National Hospital Insurance Fund. Madam Chairperson, in conclusion, I would like to reaffirm the Kenyan government's commitment to the implementation of the rights and fundamental freedoms as provided under the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. We do, however, recognize that as a country, and due to resource constraint, there are some challenges in the implementation of some of the thematic areas. In that regard, Kenya remains open to constructive engagement with the Commission and all human rights defendants towards the protection and enjoyment of the rights in Kenya and Africa in general. We wish the chairperson, commissioners, and the Commission in general success in all your efforts towards creating a human rights respecting state. Thank you.
Merci, distingué délégué du Kenya. Nous sommes très attentifs à toutes les dispositions qui sont en train d'être prises au niveau national pour favoriser la bonne exécution de la décision de la Cour africaine sur les OGEC. Par ailleurs, nous voulons également vous féliciter pour toutes ces évolutions positives et en particulier la décision de la Cour constitutionnelle qui a déclaré effectivement que la peine de mort était contre les dispositions de la Constitution. Merci, distingués délégués. Nous allons à présent donner la parole à Equality Now, juste pour relever le fait que la responsabilité de la mise en œuvre des droits de l'homme au niveau national appartient en priorité aux États. Et lorsqu'ils ont des messages à nous délivrer, je crois que nous devons tous leur donner la priorité pour justement les encourager à faire encore plus que ce qui nous délivre ici. Merci. Equality Now, 5 minutes.
Honorable Madam Chairperson, distinguished commissioners, all protocols observed, on behalf of Equality Now, I wish to extend our gratitude for this opportunity. Equality Now is an international human rights organization working to protect and promote the rights of women and girls around the world, with a specific focus on ending child marriage, sexual violence, trafficking of women, and achieving legal equality. Our work at Equality Now is anchored on the ratification, domestication, and implementation of the Maputo Protocol. Madam Chairperson, the state report by the government of Togo will be considered by the African Commission during this session. We note that whereas there's been some progress by the Togolese government to advance the rights of women and girls, the state report does not have a Part B on the status of the implementation of the Maputo Protocol as provided for in Article 62 of the African Charter. Madam Chairperson, as the Commission reviews the Togolese report, we urge the Commission to recommend that Togo adopts the requisite legislative, policy, and administrative measures to ensure that women have the right to transfer their nationality, as well as acquire, retain, or change it on an equal basis with men, and allow civil society input into any draft bill on nationality. In addition to eliminating discrimination in its nationality law, we urge Togo to review and amend all its legislation to ensure equality between women and men, boys and girls. Madam Chairperson, Equality Now is equally concerned by a growing trend by Sierra Leone and Tanzania of preventing pregnant girls and young mothers from attending school. This is not a violation of girls' right to education, but it implicates other rights, including the right to dignity, equality, and freedom from discrimination and self-determination, as enshrined by the African Charter, the Maputo Protocol, and the African Charter on the Rights and the Welfare of the Child. We therefore urge the Commission to respectively reiterate state parties' obligations to uphold the rights exposed in the various human rights treaties and ensure that pregnant girls are allowed and able to continue with their education. In conclusion, Madam Chairperson, as Equality Now, we cannot overemphasize how the independence of the Commission is integral to the realization of the rights of women and girls in Africa. This Commission shall remain independent. Thank you.
À présent, j'ai la liste des commissions nationales. Oui.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning all. Just to draw the attention of the representative of Equality Now to the fact that Togo actually did present its report on the Maputo Protocol, which spans from page 136 to 185 of the report. It actually did.
Merci, honorable commissaire. Je continue là avec la liste des commissions nationales des droits de l'homme. Nous avons la commission for Gender Equality de l'Afrique du Sud. 5 minutes.
The South African Commission for Gender Equality submitted an application for affiliation status with the African Commission on Human and People's Rights as provided in Resolution 370 of 2017, providing specialized national human rights institutions the opportunity of reporting and engaging with the Commission directly. It is therefore with sincere gratitude and appreciation that the Commission granted the CGE the affiliate status
during the 62nd ordinary session, which was held in Mauritania in April 2018. The Commission for Gender Equality further conveys appreciation of being the first specialized National Human Rights Institute to be granted the status. This will be documented by the CGE as a milestone in the history of women's rights in the continent. The CGE therefore conveys gratitude to the Commission and those who supported the CGE in this journey. The CGE also appreciates the visit by the Commission to South Africa, which was conducted from the 3rd to the 8th of September 2018, and the meeting the Commission had with the CGE. The CGE commends the comprehensive press statement that captured the level of transformation in general and gender transformation in the country. The CGE also acknowledges the social challenges that the country is still faced with. Madam Chair, it is well documented that South Africa has one of the highest rates of gender-based violence in the world. A key indicator of this is the high percentage of women and the LGBTI community dying in the hands of their intimate partners and or perpetrators that are known to the victims. The scourge has in the recent years been escalating, not only in terms of sheer numbers, but also in its intensity. The cost of gender-based violence has not only been felt socially in the country, but it has also been noted to be very costly economically as well. The national economic cost of gender-based violence serves as an important tool in our policy and advocacy efforts to end the suffering and injustice of this violence on a national level. Current estimates show that gender-based violence costs the country between 28.4 billion and 42.4 billion per year. In addition, individuals and families continue to bear the greater proportion of the cost of GBV. The South African government has put in place a range of policies and programs to address the scourge of gender-based violence and violence against women and children. However, despite the presence of good policy and legislative frameworks, the scourge has been escalating. South Africa, being part of the international community and subscribing to a number of international and regional instruments that enhance the protection of human rights, is obliged to report to such bodies as per the treaty agreements to account on how far the country in terms of implementing these treaties. During the 2011 country reporting to CEDAW Committee 967th and 968th session, the committee raised its concern that South Africa has good policy and legislative frameworks, but that the escalation of gender-based violence is alarming. The committee therefore recommended that South Africa implement the CEDAW recommendations number 19, which was later extended to enhanced by recommendation number 35. The UN's Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women also visited South Africa upon invitation, and in her report also raised concern regarding the persistence of high levels of gender-based violence in the country. This expression of concern by the UN Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women merely underscored what is already widely understood, documented, and publicly acknowledged on numerous occasions by the country's political leadership. Moreover, the persistence of gender-based violence occurs in the context of poor implementation of the country's impressive policies and laws aimed at combating the scourge, as well as the ineffective national gender machinery of the country. The African Commission on People's Rights and Human Rights, in the press statements that they released after the visit to South Africa, also raised concerns about the widespread and underreported violence against women, including homicide, rape, and domestic violence, and the challenges of implementation and violence and discriminations against the LGBTI community. Based on the review of the state's effort to combat gender-based violence in South Africa, it has become clear that whatever programs of action and institutional mechanism, the various efforts by the relevant government departments and other state agencies that have been put in place have been repeatedly undermined by a number of key factors, which include the following:
lack of effective national strategic leadership to lead the country's programs and strategies to combat gender-based violence, poor strategic coordination, poor intra- and interagency planning capacity, weak or non-existent institutional mechanisms or systems for monitoring and evaluating the effectiveness, relevance, and impact of national departmental programs and projects for combating gender-based violence and violence against women, lack of capacity building, training and skills development among personnel, lack of effective multi-stakeholder cooperation and collaboration between government and civil society in the planning, funding, and implementation of national and sectoral policy programs and strategies. Given the above factors that have served to undermine the state's effectiveness in responding to the scourge, it is evident that the country lacks effective institutional capacity to lead, to coordinate national strategies and programs to combat gender-based violence. It is therefore imperative that the country develops effective capacity to lead and coordinate its national strategies. Creating such a national institutional capacity...
Concluez, s'il vous plaît. Concluez.
I'm finishing. To deal with gender-based violence and violence against women will only ensure that the country complies with the CEDAW Committee recommendation of number 19. The Commission for Gender Equality, in line with the constitutional and legislative mandate, among others, the lobby advise and report on issues concerning gender equality, therefore has proposed the establishment of an effective national coordinating council on gender-based violence, given the demise of the erstwhile National Council on Gender-Based Violence. The Commission for Gender Equality acknowledges the initiative that women in South Africa made, who collectively made a call for GBV to be considered a national priority to the President of the Republic. This demonstration of collective power has resulted in convening the National Summit on Gender-Based Violence. The summit is scheduled for the 1st and 2nd of November 2018, where deliberations will be made collectively to develop urgent strategies and mechanisms to fight the scourge. In conclusion, Madam Chair, the CGE echoes the call made by different entities after the Executive Council's decision that the Commission should recall CAL's observer status. The independence of the Commission is important in the continent, and as it is the platform that was created to promote human rights and an initiative to remedy the remnants of colonialism, hence a safe space for all Africans in all their diversities. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Merci, Madame. Juste pour noter toutes les préoccupations qui ont été relevées et vous dire que la Commission, sous la direction de la rapporteure spéciale sur les droits de la femme en Afrique, a élaboré et adopté des lignes directrices sur les violences et leurs conséquences, les violences sexuelles et leurs conséquences et toutes les formes de violence. Ce sont des lignes directrices très riches et nous vous invitons à vous en approprier, à les lancer, à les vulgariser justement au niveau de votre pays. À présent, nous donnons la parole à représentant de la Commission nationale du Rwanda. À la parole.
Madam Chairperson, we thank you for this moment, the occasion to deliver our statement, the statement of the National Commission for Human Rights on the situation of human rights in Rwanda. Madam Chairperson, the National Commission of Human Rights in Rwanda want to take this moment to recognize and appreciate the continued collaboration and initiative of the African Commission and the other organs of the African Union and vital role in the promotion and protection of human rights on the continent. From holding actors accountable to human rights violation to guiding and setting standards for upholding human rights in their respective countries. The National Commission for Human Rights of Rwanda actively pursue ambitious agenda to improve the right of Rwanda towards its mandate of promotion and protection of human rights. The National Commission for Human Rights plays a role in coordinating and strengthening national efforts to implement the decision. Therefore, the collective collaboration of the National Commission of Human Rights, the civil society, and the other partners assist in building a culture of human rights. It's in this regard that the Commission, in collaboration with the Save the Children and the civil society organization, monitored state compliance with implementation of decision rendered by the Commission as a means of safeguarding the African Commission, more particularly on Maputo Protocol on the rights of women and the monitoring of the implementation of child rights and welfare in Africa. Honorable Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take this moment to talk about the progress made in human rights promotion and protection in Rwanda. Concerning the progress made in the enactment of law that take into consideration human rights principles, human rights, international and regional treaties, the National Commission for Human Rights of Rwanda notified the following. One, the Constitution that contains a Bill of Rights. Second, according to the Article 165 of the Organic Law, instituting the Penal Code, therefore no criminal liability for a woman who commits abortion and a medical doctor who helps a woman to abort if one of the following conditions is met. One, the woman has become pregnant as a result of rape. Second, when a woman has been subjected to forced marriage. Third one, when a woman has become pregnant due to incest in the second degree. The new law, according to the National Human Rights Commission, determining missions, organization, functioning of the National Commission for Human Rights, entrusts the Commission with responsibility as regards to the prevention of torture and the other cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment or punishment. The Article 2 of the law, the new law governing the National Commission for Human Rights, inserts Article 6 bis, which states that regarding prevention of torture and the other cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment or punishment, the Commission has, among others, responsibility to carry out or without regular visits at any time when deemed necessary to prisons, places of detention, investigation measures, rehabilitation and transit centers, centers for mental handicapped and psychiatric hospital, elderly centers, transit centers for immigrants with problems, vehicle on other means of detainees transport, and any other places where persons are or may be deprived of their liberty. It also has the responsibility to regularly monitor the condition of detention of persons deprived of their liberty and other rights with view to their protection against torture or other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. Honorable Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to mention some challenge found and suggest improvement to be observed by the government in the promotion and the protection of human rights. In this session, we are just talking about the elderly's rights. The challenge. There is no government policy on the rights and welfare of elder persons, even the International Convention. Second, the presence of depression and the stigma result of isolation for some elders people. Third one, lack of right protection of elder persons in social and economic area. Fourth one, no government centers for elders person. The National Commission for Human Rights formulated the following recommendation to the government of Rwanda. First, to set up the particular platform through which elder persons can channel their concerns. Second, to create a space for elder people to participate in their family's life where they are living. Last one, to ratify and implement obligation in international and regional instruments on elder persons' rights. The last one, to put in the place a program of training awareness for health profession and how to care of elder people. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Maos livres. Maos livres.
Os colegas, os meus cumprimentos. Angola ratificou o Protocolo de Maputo em 2007, comprometendo-se, entre outras coisas, a proteger a menina do casamento precoce, estabelecendo a idade núbil mínima em 18 anos, assegurando-lhe os mesmos direitos dentro do casamento, proteger a mulher em casos de viuvez e divórcio, com os mesmos direitos, proteger a mulher sobre práticas nocivas, proteger os direitos de reprodução, particularmente autorizando abortos médicos, proteger da violência, garantir a sua integridade física e criar condições para promover e apoiar a sua atividade comercial, sobretudo no mercado informal. A Lei 25/11, Lei da Violência Doméstica, aprovada após a assinatura do protocolo, ainda admite casamentos para menores de 18 anos. É frequente as mulheres perderem moradia, terras e outros bens a quando da morte do seu parceiro. E o descaso do governo é encoberto com o argumento de que tais atos se enquadram nas práticas culturais. As denúncias de casos de violência doméstica crescem a cada dia. O último reporte nos diz que foram registrados 42.437 casos de violência contra a mulher. Mas não se tem conhecimento das estatísticas sobre as medidas de proteção aplicadas à vítima, o número de julgamentos realizados pela 9ª Comissão e ainda os estatutos de vítima de violência doméstica atribuídos. A maioria dos casos perdem a qualidade de crimes de violência doméstica durante a instrução do processo, o que inviabiliza o agravamento da pena proposto pela lei. As 10 casas de abrigo que o governo diz existir em Angola para albergar as mulheres vítimas de violência doméstica não estão acessíveis às vítimas. Várias ONGs que trabalham no apoio das vítimas de violência doméstica solicitaram acesso a essas casas e nunca tiveram uma resposta positiva. Há uma forte desconfiança por parte da sociedade civil angolana que tais casas de abrigo não existam. E se existem, não estão a ser utilizadas para o fim das quais foram criadas. O Código Penal angolano está em processo de revisão. A proposta apresentada para a Assembleia Nacional retira todas as exceções sobre o aborto, criminalizando-o em absoluto. Ao ser aprovado desta forma, a mulher estará obrigada a levar a termo uma gravidez resultante de violação, incesto, que esteja comprovada a malformação congênita do feto ou ainda que coloque em risco a sua saúde e do feto. Apesar das estatísticas de morte materna e neonatal serem altas, registra-se agora 284 casos de morte por cada 100.000 partos, este número está distante da realidade. A estatística apenas contabiliza as mortes ocorridas nos hospitais e geralmente no momento do parto. Estas estatísticas subiriam drasticamente se fossem contabilizadas as mortes por abortos inseguros, as ocorridas durante o período de gestação, nos partos assistidos por parteiras tradicionais e no período pós-parto. As mulheres vendedoras ambulantes, vulgo zungueiras, são perseguidas e submetidas a situações ultrajantes, extorquidas, saqueadas, agredidas física e moralmente, privadas da sua liberdade e, inclusive, violadas sexualmente durante a sua atividade comercial por fiscais e agentes de polícia e da Polícia de Ordem Pública, apesar de exercerem uma atividade comercial legal ao abrigo da Lei 1/07. O processo de repatriamento dos congoleses em Angola está marcado por várias violações de direitos humanos. Há inclusive denúncias de mulheres e adolescentes que estão a ser violadas nos centros de concentração por parte dos agentes da Polícia de Imigração e não têm recebido qualquer tipo de assistência, quer seja médica, jurídica ou psicológica. Excelências, ao celebrarmos 70 anos da Declaração Universal dos Direitos Humanos e 15 anos do Protocolo de Maputo, apenas temos uma recomendação para esta comissão, que inste o governo angolano a interpretar com a profundidade devida todos os compromissos que assumiu a ratificar o Protocolo de Maputo e garanta a efetividade destes direitos para todas as mulheres em Angola. Muito obrigada.
Merci. Merci, Maos Vivres. Indigenous Movement for Peace, 5 minutes. Et Alternative Cameroun doit se préparer.
The Chairperson, African Commission on Peoples and Human Rights, the state delegates, civil society organizations present. I want to take this opportunity to thank the African Commission for convening this important event and an alternative platform for airing the issues affecting different groups. Allowed me, Madam Chair, to speak for and on behalf of indigenous people, and in particular, the pastoralist communities of Northern Kenya. To begin with, Madam Chair, I want to say that there has been, the main issue affecting the indigenous people is land grabs in Northern Kenya. And this is through different investor groups, conservation organizations, and also under the Vision 2030, which requires lands for development and building of infrastructure. And to demonstrate this, on 28 April this year, a village by the name Kisiriri in ACHPR County, more than 330 families were displaced. Their homes were touched by an investor with the help of Kenya Police Reservice units and the Kenya Police, and their property was vandalized. Learning was disrupted in various schools, and I can say more than 1,000 people were displaced from their habitual homes. This is in total disregard of the evictions procedure law, which was enacted in 2016, and in total disregard of the state's duty to protect the persons and the property. Madam Chair, more land continued to be lost, for instance, to different corporations. For instance, the Lake Turkana Wind Power in Marsabit County expropriated more than 1,150,000 hectares of land without proper and just compensation for the pastoralist community and without consultation. Another example is the transmission line called Ketraco, which has taken in a group called Koija Group Ranch in Laikipia North, 50 acres of land and a compensation of 9.6 million Kenyan shilling, which is very minimal. On the same note, the other proposed projects, for instance, the Crocodile Jaw Dam, which will take 2,000 and 77 hectares of land from the same community. Another projects like the Sotek in Samburu County and the Bubisa Wind Power, which will take over 5,000 hectares of land in Marsabit County. And these are some of the issues that the pastoralist communities continue to face. Their land they are in great need by different investors, by conservation NGOs, and this is really a great issue and which needs to be addressed. And I am requesting the Commission, like my brother in Tanzania, the African Commission on Working Group on Indigenous Affairs, to maybe visit Kenya and the indigenous communities to better appreciate these issues, and maybe we can maybe have a better way forward on how we can handle this. Thank you.
Merci, vos préoccupations sont notées. Alternative Cameroon, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, honorable commissioners, members of state delegations, esteemed colleagues of civil society, and other distinguished guests, all protocol observed. I greet you with the welcoming joy that I received in the smiling coast of Africa. I speak as a Motswana in the interest of future participation of youth and the regard for the universality and indivisibility of human rights. This demographic dividend of youth, a majority population that is gifted and dynamic in diverse interests, attributes, identities, dreams, and expressions, with a shared goal of improving the lives of all and reversing the injustices of our generational histories. I speak of the smile brought by the dignity of African birth and the regard for understanding that the demographic dividend in Africa's future and sustainability is yet to be realized. How do we ensure that we leave no one behind in the context of compromising human rights mechanisms? The leaders of our future are here today and now, and not limited by the confines of traditional ways of creating the Africa that we want. It takes a village to raise a child. Why should we allow for individuals to be killed on the basis of assumed sexual orientation? I say this because Resolution 275 was left unfulfilled when the life of 20-year-old Ken Toby was taken by his own elder brother exactly 2 months ago. Why should it be acceptable that such gross indignities continue with impunity, along with other indignities of corrective rape and hate speech? That is one too many throughout our beautiful continent. Why should history repeat itself, as with other struggles, where the tyranny of the majority impedes the freedoms of the minority? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, reflects the ideology of Africa's Agenda 2063 in ensuring all of us who are unequivocally African and unapologetically queer can thrive in a complex and challenging world. Issues of youth living in poverty, those who are displaced, those with variant sex characteristics, and those subjected to violence and state-sponsored systematic stigma and discrimination based on assumed sexual orientation, gender identity, and/or expression should be discussed in a manner that reflects Botho, equality, and the dignity entrenched in our very humanity. Youth organizations, including Success Capital Organization, Alternatives Cameroon, and the African Queer Youth Initiative, implore you on being in the right side of history for working with us and other civil society in widening the space for safeguarding the promotion and protection of the human rights of all Africans. Ke a leboga. Thank you.
Merci. ACHPR.
Madam Chairperson and Honorable Commissioners of the African Commission for Human and People's Rights, distinguished African state representatives, the Institute for Human Rights and Development in Africa wishes to commend the African Commission on Human and People's Rights for the great work it has done in the promotion and protection of human rights in the last 31 years since its creation. The Commission in many cases has been the last hope for individuals and peoples of Africa who have had their rights trampled upon by powerful states and non-state actors. In the exercise of its protective and interpretative mandate over the years, the Commission has made many progressive interpretations of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights and created an African human rights jurisprudence that we are proud of. Notwithstanding the many challenges it has faced in carrying out its duties, the Commission has been able to decide communications brought before it without fear or favor. However, we are concerned about Decision 1015 of the African Union Executive Council reached in June 2018 for the impact it has on the work of the Commission. This decision outlines that the independence enjoyed by the African Commission is only of a functional nature and not independence from the same organs that created the body. We submit that this interpretation is a misunderstanding of international law, as the Commission was not created by AU organs, but by a treaty, namely the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. Moreover, the Charter guarantees the institutional, functional, and personal independence of the Commission and its commissioners. To be able to carry out its duties effectively, the Commission must work free of all external interference from African Union political and policy organs. The Executive Council decision also expressed caution on the tendency of the Commission acting as an appellate body, thereby undermining national legal systems. This part of the decision is not in tandem with the way the Commission assesses communications brought before it. Article 56 of the African Charter lays down conditions for admissibility that include the exhaustion of remedies at the national level. The Commission in its function does not serve as an appellate body for national court decisions, but as a quasi-judicial body serving to protect rights that states have failed to protect under the Charter. We are further concerned by the order of the Executive Council to the Commission to review its criteria for granting observer status to NGOs and to withdraw the accreditation of the Coalition of African Lesbians. We are alarmed that the Commission has already started compliance with this by its withdrawal of the observer status of CAL. To this end, we condemn the African Union Executive Council decision as misguided and a misunderstanding of international law. We urge African Union state parties to ensure the total independence of the Commission from interference with its work by African Union political and policy organs. We also urge the African Commission to stand for its independence and lay down a clear strategy to respond to Decision 1015 without fear or favor. Our African Commission on Human and People's Rights must be totally independent. Thank you.
Réseau ouest africain des défenseurs des droits de l'homme. Merci.
The states of the human rights situation in West Africa. The West Africa Human Rights Defenders Network welcomes the progress made at the legal and institutional level of the effective establishment of state institutions in charge of human rights, national human rights institutions in line with the Paris principles and the adoption of human rights protection laws in Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, and Mali. We are pleased with the steps being taken by the Gambian government to put a moratorium on the death penalty. Madam Chairperson, we, honorable commissioners, we remain concerned over the growing human rights violations and abuses on citizens and particularly human rights defenders in the sub-region. We note with grave concern on the deliberate and calculated attacks on freedom of expression in Niger that have resulted in several arrests of human rights defenders, the resurgence of killing in Nigeria by Boko Haram, attacks on Christians and ritual crimes by organized gangs. We also take notes of the terrorist attack in Burkina Faso, which has created a situation of insecurity along the border with Togo. 2 human rights defenders, including Safiatou Lopez, are arrested and detained and charged for conspiring with terrorists. Following a popular mass demonstration in Togo since August 2017, and which was hardly repressed, the country continues to live in a political climate where defenders are subjected to harassment, including repressive legal frameworks. that criminalizes the legitimate exercise of freedom of expression and freedom of assembly. During this period, deaths have been reported that involves 2 soldiers. 4 human rights defenders also were arrested and detained in Lome civil prisons. Mr. Maset Kodoko and Joseph Eza, members of the Nubikere Citizens Movement, were arrested on 17th and 19th October 2017, respectively, for their participation in the organization of the mass demonstration. On April 14, 2018, Mr. Johnson Ashiba, President of the Coalition of African Youth for Democracy and Development, the Togo section, was arrested and charged for spreading false news and insulting public authorities, following a publication of a preliminary report titled "More than 100 Dead in the Repression of Peaceful Demonstration from August 19, 2017 to January 2018. Nathalie Odo Ejule, a woman human rights defender whose organization worked with Rejad on the same case, had to go on exile for safety reasons. Mr. Foley, head of the NUKAS movement, was arrested and charged with rebellion and inciting communities to commit crime, while he was about to host a press conference on the roadmap offered by ECOWAS for the management of the Togolese crisis in August 2018. Nicodem Habib, chairman of an opposition party, went on hunger strike in front of the U.S. Embassy in Lome and continued the same hunger strike in front of the Ghanaian Embassy. To demand the implementation of the roadmap of ECOWAS and the release of human rights defenders arrested and detained by the Togolese government. Despite efforts made by the Ghanaian government to evacuate the opposition leader, the Togolese government objected to his evacuation. However, he was evacuated later on road and continued his hunger strike in the Ghanaian hospital. Political violence is on the increase. As we note, the headquarters of the Pan-African National Party was burned in Lome and party color rebranded with the color of the ruling party on the night of October 24 to the 25th, 2018, while the adjacent streets were guarded by armed men in uniform. Citizens are prevented from exercising their rights to demonstrate peacefully in Kara, Kante, Sokunde, and Atigbema, despite the lifting of the ban on demonstration in November 2017. In view of the above, Madam Chairperson, we request your Honorable Office and the Honorable Commissioners to consider the following. For Togo specifically, the release of human rights defenders and political opponents detained in the country prisons, to adopt human rights defenders protection law in collaboration with civil society organizations, to ensure compliance with guidelines on freedom of assembly and association in Africa, and strengthen the capacity of law enforcement and security forces on this issue, to respect the protocol on elections and democracy in Africa in order to avoid a repeat of the bloody event of 2005. Ensure effective implementation of ECOWAS roadmap in order to establish a sustainable democratic system in the country. In relation to Benin, to ensure that the reforms undertaken by the government reflect human rights instruments to which the country is a state party. For Mauritania, we request the unconditional release of all human rights defenders, including Bahrain Dar Abeid, to respect the guidelines on freedom of association and assembly in Africa, to ensure the immediate release of Senegalese nationals detained in police stations and prison positions, and investigate alleged torture cases. In relation to Burkina Faso, the unconditional release of all defenders, including Safiatou Lopez, to review the Burkinabe anti-terrorist law that undermines the safety and protection of human rights defenders. Finally, Madam Chairperson, we call on the AU to reconsider its decision regarding the independence and operational mandate of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. We are with the view and the notion that in 2063, according to the AU, we want to see the Africa we want. And the Africa we want is an Africa where human rights are respected and the dignity of the citizens are observed. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Merci. Vos préoccupations sont notées. SOS Esclaves.
Bonjour. Merci, Madame la Présidente, honorables membres de la Commission, représentants des États, chers collègues de la société civile, les représentants des INDH. Mon organisation se réjouit que le gouvernement mauritanien ait adopté les instruments africains, entre autres, la Charte africaine des droits de l'homme, des peuples, la Charte africaine des droits et du bien-être de l'enfant, et le protocole de Maputo. Nous souhaitons aussi fortement pouvoir accéder à la Cour africaine des droits de l'homme. C'est tout un processus et nous pensons que nous demandons à la Commission de faire partie des gens qui conseillent et qui orientent pour que cela se fasse. Cependant, mon organisation reste préoccupée par la prise en compte des instruments internationaux, notamment dans le cadre de la lutte contre les violences faites aux femmes. Nous regrettons beaucoup que le gouvernement n'adhère pas à la révision et l'amélioration de certaines dispositions discriminatoires du Code du statut personnel mauritanien qui place la femme sous le statut mineur et l'infantilise. Nous attirons aussi l'attention sur le blocage institué contre l'adoption et la promulgation du projet de loi de protection contre les violences basées sur le genre. Nous ne pouvons pas ne pas souligner ici, devant cette auguste assemblée, l'importance sur un autre registre de la reconnaissance des pratiques esclavagistes, pas seulement des séquelles de l'esclavage, ce qui ajouterait une valeur aux réalisations de l'État et assurerait une meilleure prise en charge de la lutte contre l'esclavage par ascendance. En effet, en 2015, une loi a été adoptée renforçant la première loi de 2007 contre l'esclavage ou l'incriminant, l'établissement de tribunaux spéciaux, la promulgation d'une journée nationale contre l'esclavage, la création de Tadamoun pour la prise en charge de la pauvreté et des séquelles de l'esclavage, l'institution de l'esclavage comme crime contre l'humanité sont des mesures importantes et devraient, si elles sont appliquées, constituer un pas important dans l'éradication de l'esclavage par ascendance. Seulement, nous sommes confrontés au déni officiel du phénomène de l'esclavage qui reste un mot d'ordre pour les institutions publiques et juridiques, ce qui tend à la banalisation de la pratique ou de la prise en charge de la pratique et ne permet pas de la traiter dans toute son importance. Le sort des victimes reste sans changement notable. Ce sont des centaines d'individus, femmes, hommes, enfants, qui sont aujourd'hui, une fois libérés, apatrides dans leur pays parce que sans accès à l'état civil, qui est la clé pour avoir une propriété, pour avoir une éducation, pour accéder à la santé, pour se déplacer, pour voyager. Aucune mesure spécifique n'est instituée pour les survivants de l'esclavage qui arrivent à la liberté, n'ayant pour seule référence que les maîtres qui leur ont pris toute leur vie. Les tribunaux spéciaux qui ont été créés et qui sont une action très novatrice restent jusqu'au jour d'aujourd'hui, après 3 ans de création, sans parquet spécifique, sans police ou gendarmerie spéciale. Quant au dossier devant les juridictions pénales, depuis 2007, il reste en l'état devant les tribunaux. Seuls quelques dossiers ont été jugés. Le premier concerne 2 mineurs. De jugement en appel, le dossier est arrivé à la Cour suprême en 2012. L'accusé condamné à 2 ans de prison ferme n'a écopé que de 4 mois et a vu sa peine muée en une peine de contrôle judiciaire, ce qui a amené notre association à soumettre le dossier au comité des experts sur les droits de l'enfant qui a condamné la Mauritanie et émis un certain nombre de recommandations à l'État en janvier 2018. Nous saluons d'ailleurs cette mesure. 2 dossiers ont été jugés en 2016, mais les peines ont été de 2 ans, alors que la loi proclame 20 ans pour chacun des maîtres et les réparations promises n'ont pas encore été versées. nous avons encore plus de 45 dossiers qui stagnent devant les procureurs et les commissariats depuis 2007. Nous regrettons aussi que l'État n'ait jamais envisagé de mener des actions d'identification et de libération massive d'esclaves, bien qu'ils en existent, et bien que l'État en ait les moyens, la gendarmerie, la police, la sensibilisation, la vulgarisation dans les médias, et le brandissement aussi du pouvoir de la loi, ce qui devait être la première mesure d'accompagnement à la loi. Il n'y a que les associations anti-esclavagistes dont SOS, qui reçoivent les victimes, aident à leur libération et les accompagnent dans la recherche de la justice et de la réparation. Nous souhaitons, nous demandons humblement à la Commission d'exhorter l'État mauritanien et vraiment encourager l'État à reconnaître la pratique ou les pratiques de l'esclavage et d'envisager des études sur le phénomène. Enfin, nous voulons attirer l'attention de cette auguste Assemblée sur la situation des organisations de la société civile, particulièrement les défenseurs des droits humains, travaillant sur la question de l'esclavage en Mauritanie. Ils sont fréquemment victimes de harcèlement, d'intimidation et de mauvais traitements. Et le cas de l'arrestation et de mauvais traitements en 2016 subis par des membres de l'IRA et en 2018 subis par leur président en la personne de Biram Daoul Abeid. Nous rappelons ici que la majorité des associations de droits humains
concluez,
en Mauritanie,
s'il vous plaît. Concluez.
Merci, j'en viens, madame, sont des associations de victimes qui ont subi des violations. Nous profitons de cette assemblée aussi pour dire notre intérêt et notre encouragement à la Commission. Et nous souhaitons que justement la Commission puisse continuer à vivre, à exister et à pouvoir aider à la défense des droits humains en Afrique. Merci, Madame la Présidente. Merci.
Merci. C'est sur ces mots d'encouragement et d'engagement que nous allons aller à la pause café et revenir dans 15 minutes, s'il vous plaît. Merci.